All right, Casey. Just want to get things going. We're back from the World Championships. I guess a couple weeks off the
Mhm.
World Championships, and um, you were able to work the event in capacity with your UWW position and being one of the top officials in the world from an international wrestling standpoint. But for you, I think it was pretty cool. You were the eighth American to receive the Golden Whistle at this event, the Senior Worlds or the
Mhm.
Olympics, that level for the outstanding official of the tournament. Yourself and a couple other members of the officiating body. But I guess I just want to start there for you. What are your thoughts on receiving the honor and continuing this legacy of U.S. officiating on the international scale?
Or it's truly an honor to be recognized in that capacity, um, knowing that only eight other Americans have been awarded the Golden Whistle. It truly is an honor to be part of that elite group, but it's also um, a culmination of years and years of work, years and years um, of mentorship, just having a goal to strive towards, and the people that help you work towards that goal are so numerous. I don't even want to single anyone out at this point, but I think you're at the disposal of experienced referees, veteran referees, kind of seeing you as the young buck in that group and seeing that potential, and then just working your way up the ladder and being patient and knowing that opportunities will present themselves based on the body of work that you do as a referee. So um, I guess maybe this kind of gets forgotten in the whole mix, but um, to be able to do it through the multitude of rule sets that we've had in the 20 plus years that I've been a UWW or slash FILA referee has is another honor. I mean, we've all been there as wrestling fans, and but to be able to grow and develop, understand the mechanics don't change typically as a referee, regardless of the rule set, but certainly the philosophy of the rules and the application of the rules changes. So to be able to stick through it um, is another kind of chip that I'm proud to say that I'm happy about.
For you, can you talk about your role a little bit? Current role when we go to
Sure.
the World Championships. Um, you're not necessarily out there on the mat or at the judges table or anything. You're kind of back at house now, taking care of the master jury reviews and things like that.
Sure.
So, what's the experience like for you now in that position?
Yeah. So I was indoctrinated to the UWW referee commission in 2020, pre-COVID, right before things went awry, and have continued in that role after Tokyo and now after Paris. And so we're basically on 4-year terms, one Olympics to the next. Um, there is still a possibility that I get on the mat. 90% of my work with the referee commission is behind the scenes, but we're currently an 11 member body on the referee commission. Three of us were delegates at the Senior World Championships. The other eight refereed, and I could certainly be in that mix in future World Championships as well. We'll see how that unfolds. But you really got to have a big picture focus, not only one event to the next, but a large part of our role is education, development, trying to continually grow the refereeing body so that we can obviously continue to have elite events. You'll typically find your strongest wrestling countries typically have the best referees, and we want to carry that over throughout the rest of the world. And so we just need to get more referees, recruit more referees, then retain them, and then once they're in the fold, help them and help their federations continue to help them develop. The best way to get better at refereeing is just getting on the mat. And as much as we do stuff behind the scenes and in workshops and PowerPoints and meetings like we're on right now, forgive me, I'll let that forgive me. Um, just keep in mind that the best way to get better at refereeing is just get out there and do the work. And so um, that's kind of my goal right now. You embrace that role and hopefully do your part to make UWW and its member federations better.
From an education standpoint, what do you think goes into making an exemplary international official right there? I think there's a lot of complexities to it. There's language barriers. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things on top of the changing rule sets like you're mentioning. But how do you become a standout official internationally in your mind?
Yeah, it's a great question. The language barrier's a huge obstacle, and at the very least, selfishly, English is our primary language now. Um, if you're a foreign referee, understanding wrestling English, if you will, is going to be critical. Um, Obviously, communication is part of what we do. Um, as refereeing body as a 3-member referee crew during any given bout. So that would be a first step. And I can't, there's enough technology and apps and whatever else out there to learn the language. But that's something that we've done in the Pan Americas is everything is translated. And so hopefully time and time again, once they see the material, they can start to put together and tie phrases and words together. What was the other part of your question? The success to be an international referee. You know, the, you got to be able to anytime you step on the mat. And I learned this from Dave Arrett years ago. Basically he treated every match like it's an Olympic gold medal final. Um, obviously things are gonna change from a Olympic level athlete to a 6, 7 year old kid who's just getting on the mat for the first time. But as far as your mechanics and your calls, none of that should theoretically change regardless of the wrestling skill level. So, just do as much as you can to just condition those habits, and don't shy away just because it's a different skill level. Just you're always treating every match like it's a gold medal match, and to those kids and coaches and teammates, it very well might be their version of a gold medal match. So that's something that I've taken away from that, and hopefully, the other thing that we try to do is refereeing. It's our events are absolute marathons, especially at the world championship level. And, from day 1 through day 9 at a senior world championships, it's an absolute grind. We're looking at 10 to 12 hour days sometimes with minimal breaks in between. And so to kind of keep that mental edge, that focus, that concentration that's required, it just really helps to kind of, you have to maintain a professionalism, but try to keep things as loose as you can for the referees. And at that level, sometimes you might only work 3, 4, 5 matches in a given day. And so it's a lot of kind of sitting around, and then your number is called and you got to get out there and perform. So, we've done as best we can here recently of just, trying to keep things a little bit lighter and give these referees, some motivation to perform well and not have to worry about um, the stress that comes naturally in this level. There's just so much on the line with all these matches. It's we have young athletes, coaches, federations. Their survival depends on our decision, and so we want them at their utmost performance level as possible physically, but certainly from that mental standpoint as well.
I want to dive into that a little bit more. Maybe you could give some insight on, you mentioned a World Championships, 8, 9 days long, depending on the event. What goes into the day of an official, right? Just your normal
Okay.
official who's covering the event, and then, how do you all determine this is your match? This is your moment, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's formats, right? Formats, you're going. And I don't know how many officials were at the Worlds this year, but they have a whole section of the
Yeah.
stands that just filled up in the lower bowl. So there's a ton of officials out there too. So maybe some insight on that would be helpful.
Yeah, so we chose 74 referees for this year's senior world championships. It was based off their performance at their individual continental championships. Of course, that's largely, um, over not quite half, a little over half, maybe 50% or so of the referees are European. And then the other 50% are split between Asia, Africa, and the Pan Americas. Oceania is included in that as well. Um, and you get to the world championships, the biggest obstacle that a lot of us have on the front end is just jet lag. And so you try to get there in a timely basis. We usually have a good 24 hours or so to kind of acclimate, get used to the time change. And everyone's got their tricks of the trade when it comes to that. And we're certainly not the only people dealing with that, but we certainly got to kind of break that as quick as we can. We typically have our rules consultation the night before wrestling starts, and then day one of the competition, um, 8 referees, typically 4 scales, are assigned to administer the weigh-in procedure early in the morning. That's generally from 7:30 to 8, somewhere in that time frame. Each tournament's a little different, but 2 hours prior to competition starting is generally when we do that, and then you have your first session, small break for lunch, and then we come back for the evening session, which typically involves semifinals followed up by your medal matches for that given day. And so basically, if you're chosen for weigh-ins that particular day, 7:30 to, you're looking 8:30, 9 o'clock before you get a substantial break from the wrestling. And then you got to repeat that the next day and the next day after that. We typically, the middle portion of the championships will give referees a full day off, just to kind of keep them fresh. And in this particular World Championships, we wanted everyone to be as fresh as they could come Greco. Greco is just a more difficult style to referee, a lot of nuances. And so we try to give everyone a day off leading up to that style in particular. Um, from my standpoint, if you are assigned in a delegate position, we typically um, you know not only do the challenge reviews, we use a referee assignment system that UWW has developed. That's how referees get randomly chosen for their particular bouts. That's a large part of what we continue to do. You're doing anywhere from 75 to about 115 matches, depending on the day in the morning session of a world championships. And then, of course, once wrestling starts, our biggest duty is just doing the reviews. Um, you know, there's probably, I don't know how many total, I have to look at the report, but how many total reviews that we did throughout the championships. But you're looking anywhere from 30 to 40 in freestyle and 60 to 70 on any given day in Greco. And so that takes up a good chunk of our time. And then there's constantly um, not me, I don't like the word protest, but oftentimes federations want clarification on matches that were wrestled previously in the event. So a lot of our time is spent analyzing those situations and responding to those requests. Transparency is big in our organization as much as we can be. And so we obviously try to respond to those as much as we can in a timely fashion. Then by the time we get back to the hotel, we've taken notes throughout the day of things that we want to focus on the next day, both good and areas we need to improve. We compile those clips, put them in a presentation, and that's what the referees will see the next morning leading up to the next day of the event.
So with all of that in mind, you've been a USA wrestling official for what, 3 decades. You've been a UWW official for, 20 plus years at this point, or an international official for
Yeah,
20 plus years. For you, what do you enjoy about it and your many different, roles, whether you're in, on the jury, you're on the mat,
sure.
education, what do you enjoy about it? Why'd you stick with it for so long?
It's the artistry of refereeing is what kind of pushes you forward from a strictly wrestling standpoint. You continue to want to improve in whatever capacity you're assigned, whether it's on the mat or in the position we are as commission members. Um, One thing that I've personally just trying to improve on, I'm not a teacher in the real world. I certainly want to get better at um, being in that teaching sort of role. And especially just trying to find different methods to make wrestling simpler to understand for referees. And so I've taken that approach and I continue to try to improve that. But outside of on the mat type stuff, the camaraderie is second to none. We always say that there's no corner of the world that we don't have a friend close enough that if we need a place to crash, we got a place to crash. It's a unique sport in that respect, and I'm sure as much as you've been part of our sport as well, you can attest to that. So the camaraderie is second to none, and there's still some excitement that comes with traveling and seeing different parts of the world. And the unique thing about wrestling is it's a popular sport in parts of the world that you generally probably wouldn't travel to just as a plain Jane tourist. Um, every corner of the world has something to offer in terms of sightseeing, food, culture, and to see that and use wrestling as an excuse to experience that's pretty cool.
I can attest to that for sure, for sure. Um, What got you involved in the first place? I mean, I know it was pretty young for you, but
Yeah,
what
my
or who
dad.
convinced you to pick up
Yeah,
the
my
wrestling?
dad. My dad was a referee, high school referee, still referees scholastic wrestling, and he got me into freestyle and Greco. Um, Gosh, I was probably 12 years old, and we started doing some of our local events that are club sponsored, um, and then as you know, I got my first USA license. I was 15 back then. That was the age minimum that you could join. Then you start doing state tournaments, and it really was something to keep both my dad, myself, and my younger brother who referees as well. It was just something to do between matches as a competitor. And so you'd wrestle a match, you get done, you throw on your wristbands, go down to the mat, you were assigned a referee, and you would referee. And once I knew my competitive career was over after high school, I decided to commit myself a little bit more to the refereeing side of things. I really wasn't ready to walk away completely from the sport. And then, as you get seen a little bit more, your skills improve, opportunities started to become more and more of a thing. And um, once I got my international license, 2004 Sunkist Open. That was the first tournament that at the time FILA was working with the old 3-period rules. I'm sure we all remember that glorious time in wrestling. I say that
Yep.
facetiously, but um, in any case, it was a great opportunity to join at that time because we were all kind of on the same page. And, such a drastic difference in the rules and in application of the rules that I was kind of on the same level as a lot of our more experienced referees. And you kind of work your way through that system. And my first international tour, outside of, that I worked the Dave Schultz annually, the Sunkist Open when that was still going. But my first overseas trip was the Klippen Open. We still attend that annually in Sweden. And then it kind of whets your appetite a little bit. The travel bug got me, and I routinely did at least one tour a year. And during that time, you're going from one category as a referee and working your way up. Eventually worked myself up to a category one, worked the Regan tournament, which again, kind of, maybe next to the World Championships, the most elite freestyle event in the world. And to be part of that quality of wrestling gets you to want more and more. And um, eventually got promoted after the 2012 Junior World Championships was in Pattaya, Thailand. I was recommended for promotion. At the time, it was known as the Olympic category. The following year, they changed that to 1S category, so the highest refereeing category in the world. And it's been a fun ride since that point. Worked a World Championship, senior, junior. Um, uh, During that time, at least one of those events a year, the ranking tournaments. And then, like I mentioned before, in 2020, got accelerated or promoted to the referee commission. And at that point now, I'm a delegate, or I'm assigned 6 to 7 international events a year, and work in that sort of capacity, as well as am now seen as kind of the rules. It's not an official title, but a rules interpreter, if you will, for our larger USA wrestling events as well. So that's what the voice you hear at the Final X, um, Olympic trials, World Team trials, and the U.S. Open. So um, still involved in those events domestically as well.
Um, take this any way you want, but what's your favorite event or memory that you have from your officiating career?
Well, I got a couple that come to mind. When Milhain Lopez won his fourth Olympic gold in Tokyo, I was the mat chairman. So to be part of that was really cool as a referee. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, there wasn't a crowd there. And
Mhm.
so as as cool as it is to be part of the Olympics, I wanted to be more part of the Olympic experience. And so to get chosen to work in Paris, which was just a dynamite crowd, everything about the Paris Olympics was really cool. So to see that, just as a whole was really cool. This is a silly memory, and maybe you can remember this. When the US hosted the World Championships in 2015 in Las Vegas, um, the Orleans Arena was full every day. World Championship structure and schedule is a little different back then, but there was a point, and I don't remember exactly which day it was, but before the session started on a given day, they played Sweet Caroline on the in the arena, and the entire crowd was singing. And it was just it still gets me excited that in this really intense competitive environment where everyone's rooting for their country, we can all come together and sing Sweet Caroline and do it together in sync. And it was just something that I think is really cool. And so yeah, that's something I remember. I also, I was, maybe these aren't maybe the most glorifying memories, but I would we used to have to referee the European Championships when I first got promoted to the 1S category. And the first one I had to do was in Tbilisi, Georgia in 2013, which is about a month after wrestling was
Mm.
shortly eliminated from the Olympic program. And to say that the crowd was a little bit intense, it would have been intense anyways, as it was. It was, you're in this arena. I mean, there's people smoking in the arena. It's just this ambiance that you just can't match, or you certainly don't see in the United States. And then add to the fact that wrestling fans were a bit upset of where wrestling had descended to at that point. But it still showed you that there was some passion and fire in the belly of some of these folks. And so that was a pretty intense sort of situation as well. And to see the changes that UWW has made since then to create the product that we have is is pretty cool. So um, really happy to be part of that. And of course, we see it from a refereeing standpoint. We've cleaned a lot of things up, and it's a work in progress. But from what it was pre 2013 to now, I think we can all agree on that it's in a better place.
Well, and to that end, just last thing for you, if anyone wanted to get involved with officiating or just pick up a whistle for the first time, where would you say they get started? What would your advice be,
Yeah,
to build it?
so if you're an American wrestling fan and you want to get that ball rolling, I would. Every state has its own federation, and so I would reach out to either your state director or your state officials chairman. Most states have websites now. You can certainly link to most of those websites as well through the mat.com, and just show that you have some interest. If you're not uh, too terribly familiar with your state's federation or the leadership there, you can certainly reach our national officials board, which I am also part of, the USWOA. That's USWOA, US Wrestling Officials Association.com. You can certainly find various links and such as well, and to reach out to us, and then we'll obviously put you in contact with the right people. Just start at the ground level. Your local events are a great way to get involved. They're low key events. Um, just kind of get out there and start working a little bit. And then, your state level is great. Your regional level will be the next step. And depending on your progress and improvement, then you can look at some of the national events. And our national events, they're big events. They continue to grow, but they can be a lot of fun as well. I would highly the duels events that we host, 14U, 16U, junior duels, women's duels are all dynamite events. Those are probably the most fun events I can remember as an up and coming referee. Fargo is a great experience, but it can be a little bit chaotic. That would probably require a little progression in skill level there. But there's opportunities throughout the country to work some events, and like I said, just got to get out there and develop that feel that's part of being a referee in our sport, and understand the rules and some of the nuances with some of our rules is something that will come with time. But certainly, yeah, there's a heck of a lot of opportunities out there, and now with the women's college development going on, there's an opportunity there if you want to make a little money doing this. Typically we grew up as volunteers in this sport. but now there's opportunities to take those skills and get paid for what you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Casey, and congratulations again on that nice golden whistle.
Thanks.